Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Fat Man.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now we will continue the Teen Titans wave on this one. When we finish, we will build the Big Beast Boy, but this time we will take a look at Raven. Now I previously took a look at Donna Troy, which was pretty awesome. Really enjoyed that figure. But this video is going to be about the Dark One herself. Now she does look pretty spicy in the packaging, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at it. But first, she does come with your standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, of course, these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. She also comes with her data file card. On the front, you do have some source material from the comics. Now, this is a slightly different version than the version we have received, but as you know, Mr. McFarlane likes to just bring out versions and then bring out gold labels or alternate versions out of the blue. So I do expect that eventually we will get another version of this character. But of course, for what it is, pretty nice artwork here on the card. And of course, on the back, you do have some information. Now, once again, this is a character that I do recognize and I do know, but I do not know all her iterations. So I mainly know Raven from, of course, the Teen Titans, which was awesome. I did really enjoy that series. I used to watch it a lot, actually. But she has also been, I think, in live action and DC animated style. And so there is different takes on this character. And she is actually an older character going back, you know, from the beginning of the Teen Titans. So, and of course, I do love me some witchy sorcery female characters. Pretty awesome. Now she does come with some accessories, which is going to be two of these kind of pink, transparentish kind of effects, magical effects. Now there is something I want to say about these, but we'll take a look at these in a little bit. But they are sculpted out really nicely, and they actually do have the form of the hands inside the plastic. So we'll talk about that in a bit. Now she also does come with some parts for your Savage Beast Boy. She comes with two hands, one claw, and one fist. Pretty cool. And she also comes with the head of that big Beast Boy. I'm really enjoying this head. I love the way they did the hair, kind of in a whimsical pattern. The face actually does have some cool paint details to it, especially around the eyes and around the mouth. So pretty nice head sculpt that we will be using when we build that big Beast Boy. Now we will hold on to these till we actually finish the wave, but let's go ahead and take a closer look at it. Now, first impressions, as I said before, there are many versions of Raven, so we just have to, you know, roll with it of this version that McFarlane decided to give us. Now, I did look this up, and yes, this is actually a version from the comics, actually popping from the pages of the comics right into my hand. It's just not the version that is on the card, and of course, it's not going to be everybody's favorite version of a character, which is a problem that we have, of course, with the DC Multiverse, that there could be 7 versions of a character, and they put out one, but everybody wants a different version. And then they'll put out another version, and then they're still saying, well, I don't like that one either, I want another version. So we're never going to satisfy these fanboy fantasies, but it is what it is. I'm actually happy to get another female figure. Now this will be my 4th female figure in a row, and I'm definitely not hating it. But as far as first impressions go, beautiful figure, beautiful design. Love the colors with the dark tones, and the accents to the costume are really nice. Let's go ahead and take a look at the head sculpt. Now she is a shrouded figure, so she has her hood on. Of course, when they show her, even in animated versions, she might remove her hood, but it just depends, in the situation. But predominantly, she is shown with her hood. Really interesting head sculpt. She has a kind of evilish look to her. Even for me, not quite, I would say, beautiful, but it is good looking. And I love the dark lipstick, of course, as I always do. And a lot of people have shown this, or I've heard it a lot, is that you can actually pull back her hood to show her, like reddish hair. But the thing is that she does have a plug back here, so there is no way to actually remove it all of the way. You can do it, but you're going to have like a bald spot. And if I put a lot of work into this, I can actually make a unhooded version. It just depends, if I really want to, or I want to wait to see if McFarlane releases another version. But it is possible. It's just that it's going to take a lot more work than just, removing the hood, because she has that kind of like peg stuck into the back of her skull. So, but it does look pretty good and gives you a nice view of her whole visage. So that's pretty sweet. Let's take a look at the articulation. Now she does look down really well. This is one of those heads that is actually, the head and the neck are actually connected as one piece, but she can look up as well. Not too much, but it's more than eye level. So for photos or whatever, that is useful. She does have right to left. And of course you can tilt her head for some attitude. Of course, if you know anything about Raven, she is a pretty sassy character, so that's pretty awesome. Now, going down and looking at her costume, as I said before, I love how they have these accents, like this sort of design with like a disc shape here on the front, but they actually match with the ones that go around her belt, which is a really cool design, and it is out of the pages of the comics. Let's take a look at her waist articulation. You do have side to side at the waist. You have that full tilt-a-whirl at the waist, which is awesome. You have a lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel, and you can twist her to get her in some cool flight poses. Now, she does have a slight crunch. It's basically the same thing. You will see the upper torso wants to pretty much go and touch the belt. So that gives you a nice crunch. And then, of course, she could lean back. Per usual with McFarlane figures, they're really good at leaning back. Now, I do want to say that the construction of this figure is really nice. Pretty similar to the Donna Troy figure. It's just so snug. There is no gaps or any strange separations when you move the figure around and articulate the waist. It's actually really tight and snug and executed really beautifully, and you still get a full range of articulation. Take a look at the shoulder. It's underneath her cape, but you do see that socket and bushing joint in there, which you get some range out of there. Up and down, front to back. Got a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows. Pretty nice, not too bad. Straighten around if you go down. It's a pretty simple costume. It's just a regular sleeve. There's not too much texture or lines, but you do have some wrinkles sculpted into the wrist ball joint and then her hand. Now they do have the 4 ways of articulation so that you could manipulate by hinging, turning, and getting all the range in the wrist, which is good for casting spells or just putting her hand in different gesture positions. There is a gesture hand here, and on the other side it goes down into a fist. You can get her in a T-pose pretty easily. She does have a little bit of range up. You could kind of put her arms upwards, but it is restricted from the cape, so just be on the lookout for that. Now moving down to the thighs, let's take a look at this. She actually does have, it's kind of tight, but of course If you heat these up and move them around, they kind of like loosen up, and you'll get the full range at the hips. And this actually allows you to move her leg from side to side without having, a thigh cut that is good, but it kind of messes up the sculpt and breaks it up, and it just looks unnatural. And I prefer this more natural human movement where you could move the foot by just twisting the thigh or pivoting it. Now she can kick up really high, look at that, and then kick back as well. Now don't be afraid to move the trunks because they are made of rubber, and that is what they're used for, to allow more range at the hips. And when you put them back, of course they go back to their original shape. Now you can cock out her knee. She does have that McFarlane hip swivel. Double jointed knees, straighten them out, up and down at the ankle, right to left, rocker, and then sweet toe articulation. Now before we go, let's look at the lower legs. Something I'd like to say is, like this Wonder Woman up here, they gave her some really thick thighs, which I'm not hating on. I really like that, but they're like on the line, on the border of being too wide for the upper part of her body, where these legs are just perfectly proportioned. Like I would love if McFarlane were to use this proportion a lot more. The thighs are just nice and they have some shape to them, but they're not overly bulky, and at the same time they actually flow nicely with the upper body and the lower body. Aesthetically, so pretty nice. Now the lower part of her costume has the same thing. It's not too stylized or with lines. There's just one piping line down the side, and there's a very minimal, really light grain. You could barely tell that it's kind of like a leather grain. And then it goes down into her boots, which actually have some beautiful sculpted ankle joints where you could get the articulation, but it just looks so clean without that circular ball shape that sometimes McFarlane uses, and is far superior. It just looks so clean, and the sculpt, goes all the way through down to the bottom of the foot. So pretty nice. Take a look at her from the bottom. No tread and no identifying marks. Moving up the back, the same thing. I mean, it's a simple costume, but it does have its little stitching and the little slight grain, and it just has those little details, but without being too overly, busy in the sculpt and all that. So I actually enjoy that. Really nice athletic butt, and then the back of her belt where the discs actually go all the way around, and then into her back. Now she does have a cape. McFarlane has gotten away from some of the cape, the textures and stuff like that, but this one is a nice return to that, which it's a cape that's kind of soft, not too hard and not too soft, but it does have a nice grain you could actually feel, and it's just cut really nicely and drapes over her shoulders really nicely. So loving this cape, love the texture, goes into the hood really nicely. Looks like one piece, but you do have the articulation, so that's awesome. Actually a great looking figure. Now let's go ahead and talk about the effects. If you look at these, you can actually see the thumbs that are actually sculpted into this, clear plastic, and that tells you what hand it's supposed to be. And the design flaw on these is that you pop off the hand and then you pop on the effect, but the only thing that is like kind of unappealing to the eye is that you can actually see that dark peg like sticking up through the bottom, and any way you move it or try and put it, you just really see that dark piece in there, and it doesn't give the effect I think they were going for. Now the way I would have done this, if they could go back and redesign it, is I would have made it to where you actually have to remove the wrist ball, and then I would have actually formed this effect with a peg, coming out this way, where it wouldn't necessarily have to be sculpted, but it just would peg into here, and you wouldn't see that black peg, but you would see the shape of the hands that are in the effect, and then it would look actually really clean. Now I did kind of bypass this because I didn't have purple or pinkish, but I did have like a red clear piece of transparent plastic, and I actually put that inside here, and that actually allows you to peg it into the wrist, but you don't see that big black peg in there, which is just better looking to the eye. It doesn't like distract you and take your eye right to that black stick. It just blends a lot better, and it actually makes the effect where they have the hand formed in there. It makes it pop a little bit more, and you could see it more than when it has that little, black peg distracting you. So it was just something really quick that you can actually do if you'd like to make it a cleaner look. But of course, this is if you want to do figure photography or put her in poses and you don't want to be seeing that little black peg. So that's just, my thoughts how they should have done that. But all in all, it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm glad they added some effects at least for her. But I just think they could have designed it a little bit better. Or made it to where they just fit over these hands, which is, traditionally the way that effects are made. But really happy with her. She looks really good. I'm actually glad to be adding all of these females to our DC Multiverse collections. Now, don't have too many figures to compare to. I do have, of course, the old school DC Universe Classics Raven. One of the very few Raven figures that were ever released. Really like her. She is in my DC Universe Classics loose collection that always is here in front of me. But that's a pretty cool figure. And of course, let's bring out the figure I just reviewed from the wave, which is Donna Troy. Now, I did repaint her sword and her gauntlets to a more shinier silver. But we are building a pretty cool little Teen Titans group here. And I'm looking forward to getting into the rest of the figures until we actually build our big Beast Boy. But you guys, keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.